If you're curious about what essential oils are best for the heart chakra, you've come to exactly the right place. Hello, I'm Adam and I'm joined by Liz. We are Fellowship in Essential Oils, and this is a Sixth Sense series where we explore the spiritual properties of essential oils. And today we're looking at the most important chakra in some people's minds, the heart chakra, aren't we, Liz?
Yeah, I find the heart chakra to be a beautiful energy to work on.
Very much so. And what I find really interesting as we've been kind of going through our conversations on the chakras, we've talked about that a chakra can be nice and balanced, but it can be underactive or overactive. And a lot of the time, there are these beautiful, loving, giving people, but their heart chakra seems to be unbalanced. Now, what's really interesting I find about the heart chakra is you will see that each of the chakras have the color, and green is traditional for the heart chakra. But you may have noticed Liz is wearing pink because the heart chakra is about our ability to give love to the world, but also about our ability to receive love from the world. And I think sometimes we're really good at one direction and our love is a one-way street rather than a two-way street. Would you agree, Liz?
Yeah, for sure. And actually, when I'm looking at the heart chakra, I don't see colours straight away when I'm looking at the heart chakra, but I can tune in. And sometimes it will be pink, sometimes it will be green, and often it'll look to me a bit like, is it called watermelon tourmaline, where there's two colours at the same time? Yeah, and so it's something that I find really interesting in that it will often be out of balance when somebody has got really bad respiratory problems, or also problems with the circulatory system. And often it will be about the fact that they are giving too much to the world, rather than being able to receive. And so it's a really interesting sort of physical medicine to the heart chakra, I find.
Oh, very much so. And that kind of leads me into the first essential oil I wanted to talk about. It may not be an obvious one because when we think of the heart chakra, we're thinking very loving floral oils and beautiful oils. But one that I love to use for the heart chakra is tea tree. Now, there's a reason behind this, and I'll kind of tell you a bit of a backstory. So, psychologists have found that in the first 6 months that we are on this earth, we see our mother, for want of a better term, as God, because she is the all provider. She gives us food and nourishment, she gives us comfort, she gives us warmth, she gives us that physical touch, all those different types of things. Now, if the baby perceives that there's something wrong with that relationship, so it doesn't mean that you necessarily had a bad mother, but maybe your room was a little bit cold, mum had problems with her milk supply, maybe, mum just didn't come whenever you cried. The baby kind of starts to rationale in their infant mind, well, there can't be anything wrong with mum because she's God, she's your provider. Maybe there's something wrong with me and I don't deserve to have my needs met. And we write this script really early on. Now, we may be wondering, well, what on earth was I thinking at 3 months of age? We can't remember. But how this starts to play out in our lives is we kind of have this underwriting script that we need to earn love. We must do things in order to be loved in return. And so we may find ourselves getting into relationships where we are the one who's doing all the giving. Now, this can be romantic relationships, but it can be family and friends and all this, where we're give, 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 give. We're very giving, trying to earn people's love in return. And we never seem to find it. It can play out in finances as well, that maybe we don't feel worthy of earning money, so we struggle with finances. And it can even play out in our health where we give so much to everyone else and we don't allow ourselves to nourish our own health as well. So, what can we do with this? This is where tea tree is an amazing essential oil. So, tea tree, we know that we use it physically to strip and cleanse and get rid of all unwanted things. A white flowering plant has a connection to the moon and this connection with mothering. So, tea tree has been used, and I love to use it for helping to get rid of negative mothering scripts. Because as we get older, we need to realize and we have to be our own inner mother and we have to nourish and nurture ourselves rather than feel that we need to earn it from other people. And tea tree is a really good one at just helping us to realize I deserve to be loved just for being me rather than I have to actually earn love.
I find it so fascinating that you have real profound insights into tea tree, and I just have none from a spiritual point of view at all. I just cannot tune in to like the sort of metaphysical aspects of Australian oils. It's really interesting to see. I think that's a really beautiful thing, and I have things to say back to it, but at a later date in the video, I think, because they're relevant to another oil that we'll be talking about. Um, from my point of view, I think that one of my favorite oils for the heart chakra is geranium. And I think that to me, there's always a question on a program we have on the radio called Desert Island Discs in England. And on Desert Island Discs, they say, what three records would you take with you? And what are your different items that you're allowed to take? And so my thing that I would take to a desert island would be geranium oil. That to me is the one that can do everything in the world the best. And it's often called poor man's rose, and we'll talk about rose afterwards. But I find that geranium is so important as a support to the adrenal glands from long-term stress. But also, when we're talking about the heart chakra, we're necessarily talking about Venus energy, as in, well, actually both Venus to do with the veins, and Venus to do with the planet and to do with the goddess. And Aphrodite and Venus not only rule over love, but they also rule over the material aspects of life in terms of beauty and wealth. And for me, geranium is extraordinarily good for stress, for all of the things to do with the heart chakra in terms of love, but all of the things to do with the heart, with the Venus energy to do with money. And I think in this day and age where everybody's inflation's going up, everybody's worried about money, it's really quite hard to feel happy and compassionate and giving out to the world when you're thinking about, I'm worried about money, I'm worried about how I'm going to pay the bills, I'm worried about how I'm going to feed the children. And for me, when you lie in the bath, Adam always laughs because my medicine's always about lying in the bath. When you lie in the bath with a couple of drops of geranium oil, what happens is all of the cares of the world lift, particularly lift worries about money. And between you and I, that's always my concern. I have a particular worry about money all of the time. So this is my favorite medicine. But when you stop worrying about how I'm going to make ends meet, then the heart chakra begins to sort of soften and think, okay, so I can afford to give. And I think that this is a really important medicine that not many people talk about with the heart chakra. Geranium essential oil would be definitely up there for me.
Oh, I think it's an amazing one for the heart chakra. I love it also. I find it works really well with the liver. And of course, the liver can also be where anger sits. And obviously, when we're talking about love and all its different forms, anger is something we definitely want to dispel. And I find it's really good for that. I find geranium to be really quite harmonizing, and it's really good oil for people to work with in that aspect of like kind of justice in relationships. Is there enough giving and receiving in a relationship? It can be a bit of an equalizer. But I have a really interesting relationship with geranium as well, because when I first received geranium, I knew it was a heart chakra oil. You think flowers normally smell nice, and I remember opening up my bottle, this pure geranium essential oil, and go, oh, yuck, I don't like it at all. So I looked at some other authors and people that have written about why we don't like certain essential oils. And there's an amazing author in America called Amanda Porter who looks at part of this. And she says that geranium comes with trust issues. But in her writing, she talks about, if maybe we had a rough relationship with our mother or father, we may have trust relate issues in our later life. Now, for me, I got along fine with my father until his death, and I still get along very well with my mother. So I was like, this doesn't resonate. But then I thought about, and I want everyone who's, tuning in right now to think about your first ever relationship. And I believe that we don't love any harder than that first ever relationship. They're our sun, our moon, our stars. I don't know if you did in lit school, but we had these little things where you calculate numbers and work out what percentage they are your soulmate. You become obsessed with them. But then 3 weeks later, you catch them behind the bike shed, pashing your best friend, and it breaks your heart. So the next relationship we get into, we just go 95% in, and then something goes wrong with that one. And by the time we get to adulthood, sometimes we're just like 40% in or 30% in. And when we don't like geranium, geranium helps us to trust and to trust again, especially when we've been broken in the past, reminding us that we have that wisdom. So it dispels the anger, brings back the trust. So I think it's a really great one, not just for bringing in that reassurance of the heart chakra, but it also can help to heal because often the heart gets wounded throughout life and that can stop the heart chakra from being imbalanced. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect sense to me. And I think you're absolutely right. I will defend my first love and say he never did anything bad in the whole of his life, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, there's definitely been one subsequent to him that have really given my heart a really big pummeling. And it is hard, isn't it, to go into a new relationship. And I think as you get older as well, because not only is it about the pummeling that your heart's had, but it's also about, but actually, this is my space. I like things done my way. I don't really like the fact that you may eating crisps in bed. All of those things start to be a bit like you have tick boxes of, in a way, by the time you get to sort of 50, actually, I think I quite like living on my own, not really having you in my space. And it's easy to believe the things that are going on in your head because actually, sometimes they can be excuses for avoiding that heartache again, can't it?
Yes, and when we look at the plant, remember it's a flower. And what does a flower do? It opens up to show its beauty. And love is the same because if we just open up half, if you only give 50%, you're only going to get 50% back. But it allows us to open up our heart fully again and love fully again and receive that full glory. And you sometimes see 80-year-old couples that have just got together and they're infatuated with each other. And that's hope. If that ever happens to me and I'm in that situation where I'm falling in love again for some reason when I'm 80, I hope that I'm all in rather than just this jaded person who's like, no, all everyone out there is for themselves and there's nothing I can get from them. So I think geraniums are really not just a nice smelling essential oil for the heart chakra, but a really healing one as well.
You are going to go completely off topic. I'm going to tell you about this little couple that we saw the other day. Went into Church Stretton, which is like a very nice town right in the hills along the train track. And Mum and I were sitting having a cup of tea and a piece of cake. And this very elderly couple, and they must have been in their 80s, sitting like on the next table with like an afternoon tea in front of them, and the man is like really crooked. He's really old, and I heard him say to the lady, "Is that a new cardigan that you've knitted?" And she said, "Yes. Do you like it? It's bright red and it's got really like big like patterns." And he went, "I don't think I've ever seen you looking more beautiful." And I was like, oh, so lovely.
Who needs essential oils when you've got a partner like that?
I know I went to her and I said, "I think I'm sacking the silent one. It's rubbish in comparison to that." So yes,
That
I just want to show you my little flowers because I think that I can really speak to what this. So I did very well. Got a bit of rose. I got a little bit of rose geranium, And this is hyssop, and I wanted to show you because hyssop's the next one on my list. But I really wanted to show you what happens. So hyssop is it's one of my favorite essential oils, and nobody else likes it because it's really quite unpredictable. It's very high levels of ketones. Ketones are can be very sort of difficult from the point that they can be neurotoxic. So they can cause epilepsy and things like that, but absolutely fantastic for coughs. But the important thing to tell you is that now the chemistry of this plant is changing, exactly like you were saying about after it's blossomed, it's never quite the same again. So when these flowers are finished, the ketones will drop down and it will become a much softer medicine. And so the rest of the year, it will be somewhat jaded and less useful. And I thought that was just like, oh, that's exactly what Adam was talking about. So let me tell you a little bit about hyssop and why I have chosen it. So one of my favorite teachings that I ever received was from Dr. Malte Hosel, who is the person that owns Oshadi essential oils. Beautiful teacher, knows a lot about sort of Indian medicines in particular. And he does a beautiful lecture about hyssop essential oil. And he talks about how there's a story in the Bible about Christ being on the cross, and a soldier gives him a sponge with vinegar, and it's on a hyssop branch, and so he was sucking on the hyssop medicine. And from the moment that he sucks on that sponge, what you see is him starting to relax into dying. You know, this fight's gone. And if I remember rightly, he says, Eli, Eli, lima sabachthani, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And he starts to relax into to go. And Malte talks about how ketones, the main constituents in hyssop, are what's called the disincarnators. In other words, that it helps things to soften, that's how you write it, soften and separate. So in the case of Jesus, that his body started to soften, but his spirit started to leave his body. And of course, we know that for 3 days he was dead, and then he returns. And so the question is, did the spirit go? Does the soul stay? I don't know any of those things. But what we know is things soften and they leave. Now, the reason why I like it for heart chakra medicine is we've talked about hard-hearted, and that could be emotional, but it could also mean like hard arteries, cholesterol and stuff like that. But also for some people who respiratory issues are problems, respiratory and blood problems. I have dodgy lungs, dodgy blood. Both of those are heart chakra issues. There is a relationship between the energy here at the heart chakra and everything else that goes in the body. And hyssop is very good at being able to separate off the energy within the energetic field and the physical body. So for somebody like me who gets very stressed, you will know that I am going to get a cough. And when I get a cough, it will be the worst cough that anybody's ever heard. People always think that I'm dying when I have a cough. And actually, in the past, I nearly did, because I formed as a blood clot. So this is all energy that sits here. And I've come to really love hyssop using a very small amount of hyssop essential oil and just using it on the heart chakra to remind my body, you don't have to work in unison. You can process that hurt without going into the physical body. I understand that you are trying to make me listen to the fact that you are diseased. You are not at ease, but I have heard you. Can you process out here, please? And this is has become a really useful thing to me to be able to say, come on, separate spirit and body and take as long as you like, because I think we are in danger of becoming an industry that says, I want to be able to get rid of that symptom. No, the symptom holistically is your body saying something is wrong. So giving the body a chance to speak, giving the soul and the spirit the time to express its dis-ease is really important medicine, I think. And so hyssop for coughs, for breaking down any kind of hardness, and allowing things to soften is beautiful medicine.
I love that you shared that point about symptoms. I often find that people, treat their body and their health. It's like a crying baby. You don't try and shut the crying baby up by putting it in the other end of the house so you can't hear it, because the baby's still crying. And I think we really need to look at what the body is trying to tell us and the soul is trying to tell us in those periods as well. Now, you mentioned also with hyssop that it's high in ketones. So it is a bit of a one that we do have to use with care. In context of the heart chakra, how would you use hyssop?
So you're stealing some of my medicine out of my other videos, but I will talk a little bit to the way that I use essential oils for healing. So I would definitely use a small amount of the essential oil, and I would only use 0.5% dilution on the heart chakra. I would also ask the silent one to put some on my back, because the chakras go through the etheric bodies, through the organs, out the other side. And so don't just talk to the chakra at the front of your body, at the back. So if you can get between your shoulder blades, that's around about right. Although I would also, if it was like somebody who was a patient of mine, I would douse to make sure that the chakra was aligned, and if not, move it back into alignment. And if people come and do the work with me, that's starting in October for the sensorium approach, I'll teach you how to make sure that the chakras are exactly where they should be. But then, so I would use the essential oil physically on the body, but then I would also do a massage of the heart chakra, which I'll show you in a moment. And I would also make a spritz to talk to the fourth etheric body. And hyssop works beautifully on the fourth etheric body. That's our emotional body, fourth and sixth etheric bodies. So I would make a very gentle spray and work on the etheric body. And then the heart chakra massage, what I do, let me see if I can move the camera down a little bit without it. Hopefully I'm not over the thing. So here, so we want to come out of the first etheric body, into the second etheric body, into the third etheric body, into the fourth etheric body. And with practice, you can feel it. It's easier to practice to come out from work out where the edge of your etheric bodies are. Seventh, sixth, fifth, fourth, yeah. And then I would find where I can feel the chakras, and you can feel it tingling if you try. And then I would very carefully massage backwards. So the chakra wants to go clockwise. So I'm going to ask it to go gently anti-clockwise. I'm going to just move my finger off that because it's easier. Now you've seen where it is. So gently going anti-clockwise in the chakra energy, and I'm doing that towards the camera, but it's that way into the energy. And just when you suddenly feel yourself try and catch your breath, you know you've done enough. So you drop it off. And then about an hour later, I would come back and I would say, okay, so we're going to do it again. So 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th. Immediately my chakra went, because it knows what I'm going to do. I'm going to wind it backwards again. So I'm going to go gently, gently. And straight away, I'm catching my breath. So it knows, it's almost like a cat knows, oh, you're going to touch me, right? And all you're doing is disturbing the energy enough to go, I want to work with you. Because intention is everything in this work, because to a certain extent you're imagining it, but you want to be able to flow the healing energy to your fingers. So bear in mind, then you have got a flow of energy through your body, through your physical body, into your etheric body. That's enough. And doing it 3 times, you'll start to remember you've already put the oils on your physical body, you've already put them into your etheric field, and you've primed your body to go, I want to work on this kind of imagined energy outside of my body. So then when you go in the bath and stuff, you'll start to find and massage, you'll start to find that your body goes, oh, and also this stuff. And it's priming it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I'm Elizabeth Ashley, UK Director for the National Association of Holistic Aromatherapy and founder of the Aromatic Mystery School, where essential oils meet the deeper, more mystical side of healing. Here you'll explore the spiritual, emotional and energetic dimensions of plants and learn how to weave them into your own rituals and well-being practices. If you're ready to work in a way that nourishes both your soul and your senses, join us at the Aromatic Mystery School. The link's right below.
Now, let's go on to birch essential oil, which is a really interesting one for a healer of the heart chakra as well, and helping to bring it into balance. Now, why I love birch for the heart chakra is that we've got it's a tree. It's very different to the smaller plants and flowers we've been talking about so far. It's a tree that is known to be sacred to Venus again, the goddess of love, but it also has a really great cleansing property. And there's a bit of a tradition in parts of Europe where the wish or the wise women of the past would create brooms out of birch. And after the night of the winter solstice, they would sweep out all the unwanted energy out of their house. So if we tie these two together, plus we know that we use birch essential oil as something that's high in methyl salicylate, similar to wintergreen, so it's really great for helping the muscles relax and surrender. It's amazing essential oil for heartbreak and for letting go of that hurt of the past. Now, when we hear the word heartbreak, straight away we're thinking about that ex who left us for the receptionist, or that young person who ghosted us and never showed up, or whatever those heartbreaking kind of moments. But people break our hearts often when they disappoint us. They forget our birthday. They people let us down all the time. And that can actually interrupt our way of feeling that give and flow of love. Oh, someone disappointed me. Someone didn't live up to my expectations. And I'm going to talk more about expectations with my final oil as well. But birch is a really nice one to work with, to even massage over your chest, just to kind of allow yourself to I'm not going to hold on to resentment. I'm not going to hold on to that hurt, and I'm not going to make it mean more than it does, because humans are meaning making machines. And we often make something that someone else does, where they're thinking about themselves, mean that we don't matter. And I find birch is a really great one for almost giving us a fresh start, like the beginning of the solar year on the morning after the winter solstice, for helping us cleanse away any hurt, any pain, any resentment that will stop you from having that flow of being able to give love to other people. It's really great for people who tend to keep score. I'm not going to do that because they didn't do that, but also allowing love to flow back in because you haven't got a hardened heart. Like a heart is a muscle, and we know that birch works really well in all muscles. So it would work in that way as well. So really beautiful from a metaphysical point of view for healing of the heart, heartbreak, and resentment.
That's so interesting. I would never have thought of using birch. I have quite a strange relationship with birch. I'll show off a little bit now, in that when I did my aromatherapy diploma, I had a 3-month-old baby. I'd done all of the practical exams, 7, 8 months, 9 months pregnant with Amy. And then I had to do the second written paper. It was actually the day that she was born, so I had to do it again later. So I had to sit my exams separately from everybody else, and I got 98%. And my 98% was scuppered. I mentioned 2 oils that were not in the set texts, and that was birch and cade. And I was like, you are so sacked. And I don't use either of them anymore. But I know that, well, cade is just disgusting smelling anyway. But birch, I know that you have a really deep relationship with birch, don't you? And I feel like I need to sort of investigate it. Am I right in thinking that doTERRA have a rather special birch, because there's a lot of fake ones about? Is that right?
Yeah, there was some research done on what is being sold as birch essential oil around the world, and this I believe it was the Aromatic Plant Research Center based in the USA. They gathered 27 different samples of birch essential oil that are being sold commercially around the world. None of them were pure birch. They were either, because the chemistry between wintergreen and birch, they're 99% the same. They're pretty much all methyl salicylate, and there's a little bit of difference in each one. Most things that are being sold as birch are either artificially made methyl salicylate, wintergreen essential oil, or a combination of both. And so doTERRA's birch essential oil, to the best of my knowledge, is the only true birch essential oil that is actually from the birch tree. So you've got to be really careful. And we talk about this a lot of, essential oils aren't always what the label says. So I love our birch essential oil, and I have a real not reliance on it, a real trust in it, knowing that it's been tested by that independent third party to go, no, we can tell that in those little markers in that 1%, this is definitely birch. It's not wintergreen or something artificially made.
So interesting. And I mean, I have to say, I don't think you're ever going to convince me that I need that essential oil, because it is so similar, like in chemistry, with wintergreen, and I like wintergreen so much. But I think that this is a really good recommendation from the heart chakra, because the heart chakra medicine is also about circulation. And as you say, methyl salicylate thins the blood. It's even stronger than aspirin. I don't know the safety for birch, but I would have thought it would have been very low. I would have probably not wanted people to use it more than 0.5%. Do you know whether it is that or not?
No, off the top of my head, I don't. Sorry.
I should have looked it up. But what I would say is it would be contraindicated for anybody who is on anticoagulant medications. So like warfarin, heparin, enoxaparin, Texane. But also it would be contraindicated for people who do have a blood clotting disorder, like a platelet disorder, so hemophilia, or something that makes your blood not clot. So you also would want to avoid it just before operations, so within the 48 hours of a planned operation, because you really don't want to be bleeding a lot when you're having an operation. And the other thing, I'm guessing, would be the same as wintergreen, that you're also wanting to check if you have other medications that may have methyl salicylate in. You also, daft to say, you wouldn't want to blend it with methyl salicylate with wintergreen. It's too much. It's too much. But I do think I have an old bottle of birch, so I'm going to have a tune in. I think from a medical point of view, not that we diagnose or give any medical advice on this show, but from like the physical aspects of the heart chakra, excellent recommendation, Adam. I think I would have never thought of that one.
Now, from one oil that you don't have much of a relationship with, for the oil that I think you're the poster child for, because you introduced me to this oil, I was like, what is this oil? And I know that you have such an amazing experience about it. Tell me about your third oil that you've chosen for the heart chakra.
Well, so is it Monarda?
I believe that's what you had on your little list in our planning meeting. Yes.
It makes me laugh because I would say I'm the poster child for Melissa, but everybody seems to say Monarda. Nobody's ever heard of it. So yes, let me tell you about my experience of Monarda. Excuse me. The cough. So yes, I spoke earlier about how I had a blood clot. I had a pulmonary embolism when I was carrying Dexter, which was just the worst experience of my whole life. That is not an exaggeration. I was so ill for the whole time I was carrying him. And then afterwards. So I had to be on blood thinning medications for a year. And if you don't know, they are injected into your belly every single day. And we had so many challenges actually going off topic. So first of all, they went out of supply at the chemist, and so nobody could get them in across the country. So for a week I was without the blood thinning medications, and that was terrifying. I really thought I was going to die. I wish at that point I had already researched oils that would thin the blood, but I hadn't. There is a video on my YouTube if anybody does want that. So that was the first challenge. And then when they came back in, all of the needles were blunt. So that was just horrific. I was just covered in bruises everywhere, and it was so painful. It was a miserable experience. But as soon as Dexter was out, I started to feel better. I still had to have blood thinning medications for another 3 months, but he didn't sleep for 4 years. And we moved here, and I was still couldn't breathe. And that was 3 years later. So when I came here, I decided, right, he has gone to nursery now. I'm going to try and sort these lungs out. You know, I've used all sorts of respiratory medicines and not really getting anywhere. But so I decided, right, I'm going to do a whole project of it. And I wrote the bronchitis treatment book. And that was what got me better. When I was doing the research into bronchitis, I came across this amazing study that said that they had been able to find a way to repair pulmonary tissue, pulmonary fibrosis. So that means scarring in your lungs. So not only had the blood clot done a lot of damage, but my coughing was horrific. I used to cough so badly that all the blood vessels would pop all around my eyes and all around my mouth. So I was permanently covered in these blood spots. So the coughing had just been horrific. So I was like, right, geraniol and thymol, that's what they say I need, or thymol. I am going to find how I get the best of those. So do I go geranium and thyme? Don't know. I'll get Robert Tisserand and Young out. And I'd got it on Kindle. So I was able to do like just a search on a constituent. And I spent about 4 days just writing. And I was like, right, well, the oil that seems to be the highest in geranium and geraniol and thymol seems to be Monarda. I bet nobody sells Monarda. I bet it's not commercially available. But I happened to find one in France by a company called Huile Essence, Oil and Senses. And I was like, right, we're having that. And soon as it came in my house, I was in love. So it smells just like bergamot. but it is a beautiful flower. I wanted to cut one, but they all faded out yesterday, so there's nothing to show. But there's lots of different varieties of it. But this is Monarda fistulosa, which is pale pink, and it looks like a funky chicken. It's got like loads and loads of bits, and then a circular head, and then it's got a stalk, and then it does it again. It's like funky chicken. Very strange, but you get it in the garden, and the bees adore it, and the butterflies adore it. And I came to understand that it was a weed in America, and then it grows along waterways. And there are several First Nations tribes that use it as a really important sort of sacred medicine. So the Lakota tribe in particular love Monarda. So when a baby's born, they bathe it in Monarda leaves and flowers to fortify the baby. And also they use it in their sweat lodges. And they call it elk medicine. And elk medicine, the elk is a creature that is both tribal and solitary. So it likes to be with its friends. And it will be with all its friends, and then suddenly something will happen. It'll go, but I don't want to be with my friends anymore. I want to be off on my own. And the interesting thing about elks is they don't question that at all. And this is a profound Lakota treating. The elk medicine is about the love of a community for somebody that feels they need to go off on their own and to work out their stuff. And when they come back, they are welcomed back in their tribe, and nobody will particularly ask about, well, what was the matter with you? That's my thing. They're just welcome back, and it's acknowledged that they've done their stuff. They work through their stuff. And I found it really fascinating that normally people will be, well, why are you doing that? Why have you suddenly become fascinated with bees? What are these priestesses? Why are you doing all of this? And I was using this Monarda, and everybody was like, oh, that smells nice, no questions. I was like, that's exactly what they say happens, that nobody asks, nobody says, what's the matter with you? It just smells nice. And yeah, within a week of using it, I could breathe. It was just profound for me. So 4 years by that time of not being able to breathe, 1 week of using Monarda, and my lungs were just better. And it's so yin. So there's a herbalist called Kiva Rose, who there was very little written by sort of white people who'd recorded how they'd used it, because obviously the Lakota medicine is not recorded, but she had done a beautiful piece, and what she said was, it's so light it flies away on butterfly wings, and yet it does make you so yin, so passive, so receptive. You're certainly not going to argue with anybody. You're just going to go, whatever, just bring it. And so this idea of attracting love, receiving love, allowing healing to come down is definitely Monarda, but it's also heart chakra medicine. So if you look at the chakras from the tantric point of view, New Age medicine says that we bring all of the energy up through the chakras, up through the crown, and it sort of accumulates at the crown. But Tantra says we do that, but we also bring energy down from the crown chakra, and we bring it down through the body. And Tantra says they meet at the heart chakra. So I think what's interesting is when we're talking today in the modern age, we talk about it being about love and personal love. But when we have this energy of allowing this receptivity and this opening of the heart chakra, what you have is this opening of love to the community and the wider thing. And for me, I find at the moment, it's really hard not to be angry. It's hard not to be upset when you look at the news and you see Gaza and Israel and Ukraine and Latvia and the Yemen and all of these horrific things going on, and the fires and the floods and the riots. You can become really exhausted, and it's very easy for you to go, I can't do this anymore, and to close that off. There's like a second chakra much further out, which is like a community chakra. Chakra 15 is out here. Chakra 15 hurts if you're not careful, if you take too much of that on. But Menard is very good at going, but just no, you don't have to take it all in. Just keep pushing out, bring down through your crown chakra, out into the community. So such a beautiful plant.
So it really feels like it helps to enhance, I guess, acceptance of the way things are and how people are, and to keep the heart chakra open from more, not just that one-on-one relationship, but also how we maybe interact with a single person based on how we feel about humanity as a whole or the community as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that from my point of view, one of the things that preoccupies my mind a lot at the moment is, how can I be useful? These things are happening on such a huge scale. I can't knock on Downing Street door, or go and talk to these world leaders and go, stop, because what's it got to do with me? But so you can feel really, really powerless, can't you? And so one of the things that I think is really important is one single action of kindness improves somebody's day, and makes that, it's like a domino effect through the universe. So if you can find a way to express love and kindness to everybody that you meet in a day, in the hope that that just affects their vibration a little bit, that they want to affect somebody's life in a way, that trickles out through the universe. And that kind of teaching is heart-centered teaching, that you are not powerless. You just have to operate from a different angle. You have to operate from the point of compassion, from the point of love, and know that you don't know what's happening in anybody's life. When somebody's walking through, you don't know what kind of awful day. So anything nice you can do for somebody. Doesn't your hair look lovely? Don't you look lovely in that dress? Oh, you served me so nicely today. Thank you for doing that. Improve somebody's day, and that for some people can be entirely life-changing, because somebody could be thinking about it for the last day. I think that's really important, the heart chakra stuff.
Yeah. Like the flap of a butterfly's wing can have massive effects elsewhere in the world. Monada allows us to do the same as well, for sure.
In theory, yeah.
So we've left the big one for last, an obvious one for the heart chakra. It's rose essential oil. Now, I love the Greek story of how rose came to be. It was Chloris, the goddess of flowers, found a beautiful dead nymph on the ground and thought she's too beautiful to perish totally. So she fashioned her into the first rose. Now, she wanted this to be a very divine flower, so she called upon good old Aphrodite to make the flower as beautiful as possible. But then she called upon Dionysus, also known as Bacchus, the god of wine, to give this beautiful flower its alluring nectar that no one could refuse. So then she called upon Zephyrus, the god of the west wind, in the direction of love, to blow all the clouds out of the way so that Apollo could shine his sunshine onto the flower and the rose could blossom for the very first time. And so all these gods and goddesses came together to make the divine flower that we know sometimes it's the queen of flowers or the flower of love. So rose is an amazing essential oil for love, but not just love. I call it the flower or the essential oil of unconditional love. Now, people often use unconditional love as a bit of a throwaway term. So they often say, oh yeah, I love my partner or I love my kids unconditionally. And I like to challenge them on this. I say, so if you got home tonight and your partner is in bed with your best friend, they've thrown out all your essential oils, they've kicked out the cat and the cat's gone and they've burnt down your house, do you still love them? And people are like, Absolutely not. I'm like, well, then there are conditions on the love you have for your partner. Now, that's an extreme example to get a point across. But I want you to think about how much we get disappointed by someone forgot our birthday, or they forgot that we're meant to be going out with our parents on the weekend and they've double booked, or they didn't pick up the milk. And we kind of get upset because people don't behave in a way that we want them to behave. Rose, as an opening effect, says, can you love someone for who they are rather than who you want them to be? Think about that we often get together with someone and they are perfect and we love the little sounds they make when they're asleep and that little idiosyncrasy that they have. And then after a few years, you're like, if they make that bloody sound one more time, I'm going to kill them in their sleep. And God, that irritates me that when they do that around the house. We try and change them. And then we get upset 10 years later that they're not the person we got together with. It's because you changed them. So Rose encourages us, could we love someone for who they are rather than who we want them to be? Now, does that mean that you just let them run riot and do whatever they want? Well, not, and to your detriment? No, because that's not loving yourself. Because if they want to go sleep with your best friend, allow them to do that because that's who they want to be, but that may not be right for you and you can walk away empowered. Because as we give permission for people, our children, our partners, people in our lives to be their own self, it also opens the door for you to be your true, authentic self. Because as children, we learn that to be loved, if I behave in this way, mummy and daddy seem to like it. And if I behave in this way, they don't. So I'll start to fashion this version of myself to please other people and to be loved. Rose really invites you to go, well, what happens if we just let people be who they want to be and can we love them for who they want to be? So it brings some really profound lessons. And I think it's a beautiful oil to work with for love to kind of question what love is and what unconditional love is as well. So I love it for the heart chakra. I love the lessons it brings. I love the insight it brings and the connection it can bring when we actually love someone for who they are rather than trying to shove the round peg through the square hole.
So I was starting to worry that you weren't going to say Rose because I was ready to talk about this at the beginning, Adam, and then you scuppered me somewhat. But it's believed that rose essential oil was invented in the 15th century, and the Mughal Emperor Jahangir said that his mother-in-law had made it. She had discovered it when she was making rose water, and she had failed to wash up the bowl that she'd done it straight away, and rose water had left a scum around the side of the bowl, and this was rose essential oil. And he said it brings back withered hearts. And I was like, that is exactly what it does. That's the most beautiful description of what rose does. Still, I think you have expressed the love side of really, really well. Well, I mean, look at this beauty. You smell it, actually disappointing to smell that much. But, you look at a rose and that means love. It's so ensconced in our psyches that is the ultimate symbol of love. So that it's been used that way for such a long time. But I talked earlier about how it's ruled by Venus, the goddess of love, but it also rules Venus medicine. So that means of the circulatory system. It's really good for the heart generally, for cardiac health generally. But why I wanted to speak to it right at the beginning when you were talking about tea tree was you talked about those babies who come to become conditioned when mum doesn't come, etc. Rose is a tremendous gynecological medicine. I mean, it doesn't fit very well in this talk to talk about how good it is for gynecology, but one of the most important things I think that rose does is it really supports mums after they've had babies. in that postnatal phase. And when I was researching my book on Rose Goddess Medicine, one of the things that I found was that cortisol, which is our stress hormone, is really skewed in babies. Babies don't have their own cortisol response until they are 2 years old. In that first 2 years, their cortisol response mirrors mum's. So if mum has postnatal depression, or she is struggling because baby can't sleep, then the more baby cries, the more stressed mum gets. Mum's cortisol goes off the chart, and baby's mirrors it. And there's this tremendous study called the Study of Adverse Childhood Events, ACE, Adverse Childhood Events. And they monitored over a period of time children who had particularly traumatic childhoods, and they looked at, when they were 20, the effects on their body, and all of them had really inflammatory dis-ease in their body because they had never learned to be able to manage their own cortisol. So if you have a friend who has a baby, the best medicine that you can give her is rose, because it will calm her nervous system down. It will keep her calm. It helps her to bond with baby. And by calming her cortisol response down, you're also taking care of baby too. So this idea of like unconditional love actually does show through the rose, but in a different aspect. It's not romantic love, it's love of mother and child.
I've got 3 fun facts to share about rose, just to wrap us up. 1, rose has been found in a study to be able to get rid of both gram-negative and gram-positive bacterial infections on the skin, which normally with medications and most other things, it'll get rid of one set or the other. So amazing for bacterial infections. We've been talking a little bit about birch purity. When it comes to pure rose essential oil, its melting point is 21 degrees Celsius. So often people get disappointed because they get their pure rose and they're like, oh, it's like solid. There's something wrong with it. But that, you can also use it as a bit of a temperature gauge in your home, 21 degrees. Now, the final thing is you may read somewhere, and you'll find it on the internet for sure, that rose is the highest vibration essential oil. Now, to the best of my knowledge and to the conversations I've had with experts in the field, you can't actually measure the vibration or the frequency of an essential oil. And the numbers that you see around, like 320 megahertz for rose and that type of thing, was actually brought out by a company as a marketing exercise to sell more of rose and go, we've got some very high vibration essential oils. So yes, I would argue from a metaphysical point of view, it has a high vibration. It definitely helps to lift us and balance us and do all those different things. But when you see these numbers going around, I'd be wary of believing those numbers as well. So just some little nuggets about rose to wrap us up.
Yeah, I think, but also I think you also need to be careful with that, because the fact is correct that nobody's ever been able to record them in the same way that they were before. But then the guy that did it had his own machine that he did. If you were to douse the frequencies, and if you were to think about how they vibrate through the body, I would still agree with what he says. I don't think that there is an oil that vibrates as high. It's got such an ethereal lightness to it, specifically rose essential oil rather than rose absolute, that we can't. That's a bit like saying just because you can't measure it scientifically, it isn't true. I'm not sure that that's true, but I agree that information that's on Pinterest and stuff like that, it's marketing knowledge. Yeah.
So hopefully today we have shared with you some insightful essential oils that are great for the heart chakra. You may not think of oils such as tea tree and birch and even know about monada and think, oh, they're the ones I want for my heart chakra. There are other traditional ones out there, things like lime, green mandarin, marjoram, and so on, that also could possibly be used for the heart chakra. Remember that we have lots of content on our channel, so make sure you subscribe to that to get all our future videos. But you can go back through many of the 100 essential oils we looked at, and you'll notice that many of them get a heart chakra mention as well. Don't forget that down in the links below, you have access on how to get some pure essential oils, and that Liz has her amazing academy and school where you can learn so much more about essential oils and take some really deep dives as well. Please share this with anyone else who's interested in learning about the heart chakra. You've subscribed, you've commented, you've got all the ticks on the box, you've earned enough love. Your heart chakra is going to be just balanced. Anything else before we let them go and experiment with their heart essential oils, Liz?
Yeah, if anybody does want to do a heart chakra meditation, on my channel, we'll put a link in the description. I have a rose benediction. It's actually one of the most popular videos on my channel, but it's a beautiful rose meditation you'd be welcome to do.
Dive in and take advantage of that and take advantage of these beautiful essential oils from Mother Earth. We'll see you next time when we dive into the throat chakra. Until then, take care and blessed be.
Bye-bye.
Whoa. One more thing before you go. Hopefully, you got a little bit more excited about essential oils in this episode, and you may be running off to go buy some more. Now, before you do that, I want to talk to you about quality of essential oils. Did you know that around the world there is no regulation or governance about the labeling of essential oils? Anyone can call an essential oil pure, natural, organic, and it doesn't have to be. In fact, 75% of what's sold as lavender around the world is not even from the lavender plant. This can be ineffective in an oil, but it can also mean that the oil can be harmful for you, not only physically, but metaphysically, it's not going to work well either. So I went on a journey to find the best essential oils that I can trust, and I found doTERRA to be absolutely amazing. Not only do they test all their essential oils, but they have an independent third party test them at the end of their journey to make sure only in the bottle is what nature intended. However, if you want to get doTERRA essential oils, don't just jump on their website. Reach out to me and I'll give you a discount code so you can get them at a cheaper price. But I don't just want you getting essential oils. I want you to learn how to use them each and every day for the body, mind, heart, and for the spirit as well. So when you become one of my customers, you get free access to a lifetime discount code. We have online portals where you can learn more, and we have giveaways and freebies and all different things like that. So I'd love you to join my wellness community. Simply click on the links below and let's get started with you using real essential oils as nature intended.